ஆடை போர்த்தி சிறப்பு செய்கிறார்கள். புரட்சியாளர் அம்பேத்கர் அவர்களின் வாரிசுக்கு வாழும் புரட்சியாளர் மக்கள் தலைவர் எழுச்சி தமிழர் அவர்கள் பொன்னாடை போர்த்தி சிறப்பு செய்கிறார்கள்.
Founder, President of Viduthalai Chirutegal Kachi, Dr. Thirumavalavan, Dr. Subha Monokaran, Advocate Telumalai. Balaji, Shanavas, M. Babu, Amalraj, Kartikeyan, Bapa Mohan, Vijay Kumar, Shankara Subbu, Prabhakar, and many names that I might have missed who are sitting on the dais, and friends. Many of you are legal luminaries. I am told many are advocates and students of law. And I am not going to speak on constitutional law or anything. I am an odd man out. I am not going to bore you also in English. I am the only non-Tamilian out here. But I consider myself something like a native of Tamil Nadu. I have been one time here, I lived here, but it's unfortunate that I do not know Tamil. I could not learn anything out of it because our business was different and there was no interface with local people, and as a result, I could not learn Tamil. Let me I think I have not heard a couple of names, Madam Sudha and my old friend, Advocate Rajnikant, who almost forced me to seek court permission to come here. And I got a one-day permission because judge was telling me like last week itself you had been to Chennai. So I said, okay, all right. Every time I could be going to Chennai, you decide whether I go or not. I congratulate you, particularly VCK, for organizing such an inspiring program on Republic Day. It's notable for many reasons, but I will tell you that nowhere in India any Dalit party has done it. If in today's parlance any significance is laid for Dalit politics, probably VCK distinguishes to be the party and Dr. Thirumavalavan as the only leader across India who actually represents Dalits. Let me be very fair about it and very clear about it because I'm not given to rhetoric normally and I teach people about all kinds of falsehoods. Friends, as we gather here, this is supposed to be a symposium, and as we gather here, there has been so far we have been celebrating Republic Day as well as Baba Saheb Ambedkar. But there is a necessity today to look back to the making of the Constitution itself and whatever that has happened to this Constitution at the hands of ruling classes. It is only then we would be able to kind of carve out our path for the future. Because today are the dark times. And celebrations are not enough. It's okay to celebrate whatever bright spots have been there in the past, but we are facing actually the prospects where this republic as well as democracy would survive or not. And that needs to be squarely kept in mind at such an occasion. You are all people who formally studied law. I have not. And you are the appropriate people to really think through what could be done, what has gone wrong with the constitution that we are actually facing such a situation today. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, there is no doubt about it that he has contributed a lot in making of the constitution. It's all documented, everybody knows it. Some people, actually his colleagues, acknowledge that he has almost worked to his death during the constitution. So that has been the contribution. But this could be taken as a rhetoric. What actually happened and what they have done to Ambedkar also needs to be kept in mind. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, as you might know, entered the Constituent Assembly in a very difficult times. In 1946 election, which actually determined how the people would send representatives indirectly from the elected members of the legislative councils that time, the legislative assemblies that time, that there, Baba Sahib Ambedkar had just 2 representatives who got elected in 46, and there was no way that he could reach Constituent Assembly. Congress party then had declared that not only doors but the windows of the Constituent Assembly would be closed for Ambedkar. So they were so determined not to get him into Constituent Assembly. This is the situation we ought to remember. In that situation, Ambedkar got elected by the lead of his colleague, Scheduled Caste Federation colleague, Jogendra Mandal from East Bengal. So, Congress party that time had taken care that even without anything, when Congress members also had voted in Bengal to elect Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So that was the situation. Of course, noting his value in politics, Sardar Patel had started sort of parlays with the blessings of Gandhi. Initially, Gandhi was not enthusiastic about it and said that Ambedkar is not a reliable person, so I don't think it is going to work. But then when Sardar Patel with an N.M. Joshi and other people from Maharashtra, their mediation, Sardar Patel started talking to Ambedkar. That time, Gandhi just wished, and he was actually reporting progress to Gandhi every time. And Gandhi was happy that it is working. So from September 1946 onward, these kinds of parlays actually were happening. And 19 July 1946, Baba Sahib got elected to the Constituent Assembly. In February, then he was actually inducted into the Advisory Committee as well as several majorly Minorities Committee and Fundamental Rights Subcommittee. So this is over approximately the story. 3rd June came, Mountbatten Plan, which announced the partition of India, and Baba Sahib Ambedkar's constituency fell in East Bengal, which was to go to Pakistan. So again, he lost his membership. So by that time, this all patch-up had happened, and Baba Sahib got elected from Bombay Assembly, Pune constituency, to the Constituent Assembly on 12th August 1946. That time, Prasad had written to Kher, who was the Chief Minister of Bombay, that to elect Baba Sahib Ambedkar, actually Congress shelved their plan to ask Jaikar, M.R. Jaikar, to resign and get Mavalankar to the Constituent Assembly in his place to be chairman of the Constituent Assembly. But that they shelved and got Ambedkar elected from Bombay Assembly. This is the way Baba Sahib Ambedkar enters the Constituent Assembly. And thereafter, there are a lot of things that happen, and how the Constitution got made, that needs to be thought through. I would invite your attention, and most of you might know, there are two seminal studies by Granville Austin, Indian Constitution, the Cornerstone of a Nation, and Working of the Constitution. These are two books actually. If you are not done already, you could again revisit. And there he gives the details about the Constitution. What was the Constituent Assembly? First of all, Constituent Assembly was not representative of people. You know, as I said, the Constituent Assembly was formed by indirectly electing the members from the 46 election members of this legislative assemblies. And what was the franchise that time? Many people estimated what was the franchise that time. It really worked to 14 to 23% of the adult population of India then. Most of the people, because franchise was determined by the criteria of property, whether the people actually had a property, whether they paid tax, that means income, etc., enough income, and educated. So most of the people of our kind, like Dalits, small, very few Dalits actually qualified that way, and entire working class, all these people were excluded. So one has to keep in mind whether the Constitution was made or Constituent Assembly represented the common masses of the people. The answer is no, and that needs to be kept in mind. Now, coming to Constituent Assembly, Granville writes that Constituent Assembly was Congress and Congress was India then, because Congress had an overwhelming majority elected in 1946 election. So in the Constituent Assembly also they had an overwhelming kind of thing, but it was the sagacity of Gandhi and the foresight of the Congress oligarchy that they got inducted many people, among them even the ardent enemies of the Congress, like Ambedkar, like your Shanmugam Chettiar. All these people used to be very much against Congress, but Congress got them elected on the seat and got them into Constituent Assembly. That was the thing. Then what was the composition of Constituent Assembly? Constituent Assembly also was dominated by the upper caste elite, okay? Even if you want to sort of count them, there were something like 14 Brahmins among the 20 most influential people in the Constituent Assembly, as Austin writes. 14 were Brahmins out of 20. Okay, there were two Muslims, one Christian, one SC, of course, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and other three upper caste people, Rajput, Rajput and Kayast, and another fellow Baniya. So these kinds of things, these are the actually most influential people of this thing. What were the decision processes of making the decisions in Constituent Assembly? They say that the discussion in the Constituent Assembly was just reduced to formalities. All the decisions were basically taken prior to putting the thing to the Constituent Assembly. It was decided by Congress. It was actually rooted, any point that came, it was rooted to Congress ministry that time. And ultimately it went to parliamentary politics, which were dominated by Congress oligarchs, comprising Nehru, Patel, Prasad and Maulana Azad. So this was the composition, and Granville writes, not a single word went into the constitution without approval of Congress oligarchy. So this I'm actually giving something like a snapshot of what the constitution is and the manner in which the constitution got made. So that needs to be kept in mind. Baba Sahib Ambedkar struggled a lot. Okay, as I said, that he almost worked to his death during the piloting the draft of the constitution through assembly. And those who are familiar with the Constituent Assembly debates, they would know that what kind of intellectual labor that he has put in to justify the things in the draft that he had made. There were something like nearly 7,000 amendments when B.N. Rao's draft. Somebody said that B.N. Rao was the Constituent Assembly's advisor who had prepared the draft and he submitted in October 1947. Okay, and the Constituent Assembly, when a drafting committee of Baba Sahib was formed in August, 29th August to be precise, and next day itself he was made the chairman of the drafting committee. There are seven members, and he was made the chairman, and he was actually surprised that most of the people besides him were senior in a legal fraternity, and still he was made the chairman, because to get into the drafting committee was not a surprise, because he was already made a cabinet minister and law minister. So it was by that virtue it was a natural process, but to be made chairman of the drafting committee was a surprise. Now, what is the politics behind it? Everybody knows how Baba Sahib Ambedkar was conducted into the cabinet, Nehru cabinet, the first cabinet. There are many people who were non-congressmen, but Ambedkar, when the list was brought to Mahatma Gandhi, that time he, in his own hand, actually scratched it and wrote his name. Okay, and it is well documented. All historians have documented, and it's a documented fact. Patel argued against it, because Ambedkar was not an easy person to go by, and Patel had a different opinion, and he actually argued against it with Gandhi. But still, Ambedkar got in. Now, what is not known or what is not documented is how Baba Sahib Ambedkar got inducted into Constituent Assembly. Okay? And this process, unless it is very clear to us, we would not understand the politics behind. Gandhi was not anywhere, he was not a congressman, but he was a moral authority without which even the Congress oligarchy would not function. There would not be any coordination. Only Gandhi's word would prevail. So, every time any major decision, it was actually Nehru, Patel used to go to Gandhi and consult him, and with his approval only the decisions used to be taken. In my opinion, the way I wrote recently, many of you might be knowing an iconoclast, a biography of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and in that I actually hypothesized that it was not a simple decision, it was something like a foresight of Gandhi, a strategist, whom I call the biggest strategist after Kautilya India produced. He had such a foresight that if constitution, tomorrow's constitution is actually comes with signature of Baba Sahib Ambedkar as the maker, and they eulogized him as the chief architect of the constitution and blah blah. The lower caste for whom actually Ambedkar was already an icon would uphold it, and any time the question of constitution comes, they would uphold it, and they will come up in arms. So that was the Gandhi's vision, which actually got Baba Sahib Ambedkar inducted into constitution, not only into constitution, but he was made the acting chairman, the main person who would write the constitution. So this actually needs to be borne in mind. So it is not just to celebrate Ambedkar or Constitution, but we have to introspect now when we see actually the discontents of Constitution unfolding before us. If the Constitution had been so, then all these kinds of things would not have happened. It is not that it's only got bad people at the helm to implement it in that way. It has its content also is like that, and that needs to be carefully seen. I pointed out few things like when B.N. Rao's draft came and the drafting committee scrutinized it. It was supposed to be scrutinizing it, and drafting committee scrutinized it and created its own revised draft. Okay, in February 1948. So that time there were major changes, 20 changes that Baba Saheb Ambedkar wrote in a covering letter to the chairman of the Constituent Assembly. And what were the changes? One was, of course, the preamble that we uphold, and it is quite credited to Baba Saheb Ambedkar, okay, by researchers also. And another one is something like the delineation of limitation to fundamental right at the instance of Patel and Nehru that he brought about, okay, which Ambedkar had to really defend during the debates of the revised draft. Now this has got implications, and that needs to be borne again in mind. We are creating a set of 10 books for the people, and 4 of which are out. And first one of we the people. We proudly say the Constitution actually is the name of the people. So where are we? Actually, we need to be problematized. As I said that the Constituent Assembly was not representative of people. So is the case really, it actually goes down into the content of the Constitution that many people were excluded from this we, quote unquote we. What are those? Constituent Assembly adopted the mechanism of first past the post type of election, that we take it for granted that the only way to elect the people, okay? But that's not. First past the post type of election, when the elections actually came into being in consequence of Chelmsford-Montag reforms, they only brought the actually elections, and elections started from them. The select committee to which this bill had gone, the Government of India 1919 bill had gone, that time it opined that the committee ought to examine the proportional representation system, because the kind of diversity and kind of history India had, the FPTP elections would not be suitable, and proportional representation system should be seriously examined. But it appears there is nothing to be seen thereafter, that no study was done or anything. Because the Westminster, Britain, by mid-1880s, this FPTP system had been adopted, and this came handy. It fell through because of Montague really. Otherwise, the ruling classes, colonial classes, people were in favor of FPTP election, and that got stuck. And most of us, we take for granted that FPTP system has been the thing. FPTP system, we now experience the discontent of it. You have something like a 98, 99. Congress had a major vote, major kind of margin of something like 5% votes over BJP, but BJP grabbed the power. And same thing has been happening. Now Modi claims that Modi is quite flamboyant, speaking on behalf of 1.4 billion people, but all of us agree with Modi. Modi's percentage vote has not gone beyond 37%. What does it mean? That 63% of India are against him or either indifferent to him. And still, he actually has been carrying in the manner that there probably doesn't seem to an end to Modi regime. So this is the kind of anomaly that FPTP system created. PR system ensures the voice to each man, okay, wherever he might be. And there were something like voices raised when Nehru submitted the objective resolution in the Constituent Assembly on 13 December 1946. That time Minu Masani had said that it lacked the word democracy. It lacked the word, and he said that a PR system with an universal adult franchise should be adopted for future of the country. But it was all dismissed. Even later on, when the revised draft came before the Constituent Assembly, the same things, like many people said, that if PR system is adopted, probably all this institutional mechanism of reservation, etc., would not be necessary. But nothing was discussed. The first of the man was Qazi Sayyid Karimuddin, who put an amendment that PR system be adopted while discussing the revised draft. Incidentally, all the people who supported PR system were all Muslims. Pokal Sahib, M.A.B. Sahib Bahadur, and M.A. Jhali, and Imam Hussain, all kinds of these kinds of people actually proposed this thing. Imam Hussain even said presciently that if you pursue this FPTP system, you are going to traverse to fascism, what we actually is the reality today. So this way, PR system was never discussed in the Constituent Assembly, and as a result, we have been carrying out with a defective kind of FPTP system of election. This election actually entail that people's opinion does not matter. What matters is the strategy of the political parties. Okay? Because if you manipulate and keep stand something like a dummy candidates, etc., the vote percentage could come down to any level. There is no minimum set with which you could get elected, and rest of the people could be against it. So this is the kind of bland anomaly that this system has, and we do not pay attention to it. Now, how the strategy gets implemented, it requires resources. It requires money, and whichever party has money, that would rule the roost. Today BJP is the biggest party. It has got all kinds of illicit money collected through electoral bonds and its equations with the business people. So they become something like a indefeatable. Okay. So this is the virtue of the FPTP system. All kinds of ills that we attribute to India today, something like corruption, the criminals reaching the parliament, and all kinds of things, basically has made the democracy the plutocracy, where only the wealthy rules. So this is the thing, and by default, then all the poor people get excluded. Firstly, by virtue of Constituent Assembly not being representative of people, that people got excluded. Almost more than 75% people got excluded. Now all the poor get excluded from this FPTP system. Now there are two more things, or three more things I would say. Secularism. India, according to many people, India is eulogized for inventing a very different kind of model of secularism. It was a Nehru's kind of vision of dharma nirapakshata, okay, and Gandhi's ideal of sarva dharma samudaya. It's actually nobody questions that in a country where majority is a communal majority, as Baba Sahib Ambedkar said eloquently, and everybody of us know that it's a majority is a communal majority. In such a thing, with such kind of majorities, the state gets formed, and that state would actually keep equidistant from all the religions, or it will treat all religions with impartiality. Is it possible? So it was not theoretically tenable, nor practically possible, and that kind of model we apply. So right from the beginning itself, this secularism was a non-starter. Okay, like Rajendra Prasad going to Somnath Mandir, or something like Varanasi and washing the feet of Brahmins, etc., happened during Nehru's time itself, and now we actually it becomes a naked thing. what kind of secularism is going being operated in the country? So that kind of secularism actually effectively excludes all the minorities. Okay, today we find Muslim being excluded because it comes handy right from the RSS formation that Muslims actually are branded as other. Okay, but along with, if you take a Golwalkar version, then Christians and communists he named to be three enemies of the nation. So that follows. So all the minorities get excluded. Now coming back to something like the fourth point of exclusion comes as a reservation. Reservation was supposed to be inclusive policy. You know, the Dalits, etc., who were marginalized in history, so they needed to be included. So that was the formulation that they actually presented before us. But actually it excluded entire Dalit community, because with this kind of alibi, they preserved the caste. Okay? When it came to discuss in the Constituent Assembly, the earlier erstwhile Article 11 and what became 17, by which the untouchability was abolished, that time nobody problematized it, because how could untouchability only be abolished if the caste survived or caste is preserved? So they did not touch caste, they did not attack any caste. There were some people, you know, there was a great grandson of Harichan Thakur. The Dalit movement actually starts from there, 1865 in East Bengal. Okay, the founder of the Matua sect, all that manifestation always in religious terms of this all rebellious movements. So there it starts. So this man starts with the Matua sect, and therefrom the association of Dalit starts actually that we also are people. So his great grandson, who was in Constituent Assembly, he points out that how could untouchability go without caste being abolished? And surprisingly, his supporters were all Brahmins, Banerjee, and another name I do not get easily. Okay, so these people supported him. Even Baba Sahib Ambedkar individually has repeatedly said that outcaste is the byproduct of just caste, and untouchability alone cannot disappear. But no, they wanted caste as they wanted religion to survive through secularism. So caste also, these are the very skillful kinds of things that they actually preserved religion or religious identities as well as caste identities to divide people, because these two things actually were proven during colonial times to divide in people. So this is the way actually we uncritically take things for granted, and this is the way that has been affecting us. So caste identities being kept intact actually got Dalits excluded, because with this kind of thing, Dalits actually do not have any say. The result is that today if you take parliament or any legislative body, all people, if they are together, you know, would actually form a very, very big chunk. But they do not have a voice. So what is it? Actually, they serve the ruling classes better than their own people. Their people in a parliament, etc., no scheduled caste MP actually raises any voice. This is the fact of life. And our people are unleashed so many caste atrocities, etc. And a fifth fact or fifth item that I would problematize is something like the exclusion of dissenters. With all these kinds of things, if you dissent against government or protest against government, you are again excluded to the jails, excluded everywhere. But these are the kinds of exclusions that we should mind and discuss, that what has been the root cause of this kind of thing and where this lies in the Constitution. The Constitution or anything is actually prepared by the ruling classes to continue their rule. So we need to understand that fact too. There are many lofty things that Constitution has, and that needs to be upheld. We ought to uphold the Constitution in the face of the danger the BJP poses. But it is not to be taken as a blind kind of celebration. We ought to be now thoughtful about it and see where the things have gone wrong. What is sacrosanct is popular sovereignty. Nobody talks about it. That is what is behind entire Constitution, and that is the vision actually comes out, and that is the vision which actually ought to be attributed to Baba Sahib Ambedkar. That popular sovereignty where people are supreme. that actually needs to be celebrated, because that does not have, this is an unbounded kind of power that people have. They are not bounded by Constitution, they are not bounded by human rights, they are not bounded by any state or anything. This is the universal kinds of power that the people are invested with, and that needs to be celebrated. I would end here. Thank you. Vanakkam and Jai Hind.